Good morning. It is 9:30 on Wednesday morning, uh, July 25th, 2018. I have some thoughts on, the expression the life cycle of a species. I have a descriptive uh, visual explanation of the life cycle of a feminist. Now, the life cycle of a human starts at birth, starts at inception, through pregnancy, from a embryo to a fetus to a little baby inside a woman to a child that came about from the DNA of a male human and a female human, with the female human uh, being the vessel which brought the child into the world, the offspring, being the cargo ship, the container ship to life. Um, so a child begins to grow, this female child. Let's take the feminist, ardent feminist life cycle. At one point, between the age of, I don't know, 4 and 15, um, it is impressed upon this female that she's getting the short end of the stick, either because of, you know, vulnerabilities to it through poor parenting and lack of education and media always telling people that they got the short end of the stick, maybe an image issues, a body consciousness, lack of self-esteem, lack of intelligence, um, some traumatic event that took place, but it all has to become they have to become a victim, and what brings about that victimhood is jealousy and then envy. Envy is actually one of the according to Christianity, it's a sin, and I'm not going to explain why, because that would require you to have a fair amount of insight into the workings of the human mind and spirit. That one I'll leave for another video. So at one point, victim uh, getting the short end of the stick, therefore someone else has to have the long end of the stick. Although the person with the long end of the stick isn't really like bothering the person with the short end of the stick, probably loving her, but anyway, um, in the heart. And so it starts with envy and jealousy, and naturally, those emotions, they turn into bitterness. They turn into bitterness. You're envious and you're jealous and you're angry, you become bitter. And so at some point in life, maybe let's say that the feeling of less than or short end of the stick started at 8 years old, let's say. So that went on, and it learned its optics were unfairness. So that's all it saw in the world, unfairness. And I'd like to just point out here for a minute that I heard something once, and it's absolutely true. And it's so true, it's remarkable. It's just remarkable. It's the easiest and most fundamental truth. Angry people, people who are angry inside, perceive the world as angry for the most part. That's their initial look. Loving people look at love. Spirited people look for spirit. Hopeless people see hopelessness all around them. Hopeful people see hope all around them. Fearful people live in a world of terror, because if you're afraid, you see it everywhere. You see potential danger, which in turn is fear. So, deprivation, less than. Bitterness comes, I think, over a 10 to 15-year period when you just get so sick and tired of being angry. It takes the pretty out of your face and supplants it with something else, with attractive but bitter. And then the female of the human species, and this is occurring all around us, moves through her 20s and 30s, through her window of opportunity. And I'm going to talk about the feminist who blew it on all levels, who has no offspring, who's barren, because she got stuck. Not all, of course, you know. There's the feminist ardent feminist that has the child and then hates the man so much that she goes away. But anyway, so at some point in her 30s, she starts thinking about the life cycle, the window of opportunity to have children. But she's got jobs running on and schedules, and she's pissed off, and she's got to go to the fucking Me Too movement club meeting or whatever the hell it is, and she blows it, you know. She has no decent man in her life. And I'm not saying it's easy. Relationships are hard, but they're impossible for that woman. Impossible to pick. She might pick some slavishly weak man, you know, and that's cool if that's her trip. But not every feminist is an alpha female that likes to take the lead. There are those, and they're happy in those relationships. I have a sibling who's a very loud alpha, very large aura, very loud, angry alpha female with a pitifully weak-kneed beta lapdog liquor boots husband. And it's disgusting. But that's not my trip. That's love on their end. All right, so that was a diversion. I shouldn't have went into that. But anyway, so she loses her window of opportunity for having a child. She's got this career. She hates her fucking boss, at least 2/3 of the time, or they use the shit out of her, like these poor tellers and branch banking women that are so plowed under by the corporations that they're so scared of the company they'll work 20 hours of overtime for nothing. I know Bank of America firsthand. When you worked overtime, I had a wife that my wife works for Bank of America, worked for her. When you had overtime, and at the same time she was working for Bank of America, I was working for Bell Atlantic in a bucket truck outside, you know, in a union where I'm not a crazy union fan because it definitely hurts productivity. But you know what? Fuck them. If they're going to treat them if you don't have a union and they're going to treat them like Bank of America treated my wife, where 1 week she'd work 46 hours, right? And they'd say, oh, no, 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 no. You can only work 34 next week, and we're going to put that 6 on top of that next week's paycheck, so you don't get any fucking overtime. That's a scumbag move from that fucking bank. If they ever did that to the men at my garage, we wouldn't have left for our first job till 11 o'clock in the morning. We'd all be changing our oil or checking our spark plugs or doing those 3-hour safety checks that they required you to do. But 10 minutes after you got to the job, to the garage, they wanted you out the door. So, you know, there was a little push and pull there. But the control they had over those women at that branch banking was disgusting. So window of opportunity goes up. Bitterness, it enlarges itself. Bitterness. Now I'm in my 40s. Fuck. You know, I'm a single 40-year-old woman with no children and a job I fucking hate. But I got my girlfriends. They'll get me through. I have to be silly once in a while. It's sad. And bitterness, after the bitterness, I think when they hit about You know, when the window completely closes, and let's say that's about 45 for the most part, and then from 45 to about 50 or 55, they're just dulled down into a tired, grinding resolve, spiritless grinding resolve. And it eventually becomes despair when the knees start giving out and the dimensions, the physical dimensions start growing, and the back hurts, and they walk down the street and they see the woman taking care of her grandchildren in the grocery store, and there they are alone, looking at the home stretch by themselves with their girlfriends. That's not company down the home stretch, girls. Unless you're a lesbian, which is possible. But most of those lesbians, they don't really hate men like you do. I know some. I know feminist lesbians. Locally, I like them. They're a lot more pleasant than a feminist, than an ardent feminist heterosexual with a chip on his shoulder. So that's the life you have to look forward to, because they told you long ago, the Democratic Party and corporate America told you that you were getting the short end of the stick. And the only reason they did it was because they wanted cheap labor, just like they want cheap labor now coming across our southern border. Oh, multicultural. It's all bullshit, guys. It's the big fucking lie. And it ruins you. And I feel sorry for you. I do. It took its toll on me, too. It took its toll on all of us. But the price that women pay in the long run, I think is greater than anybody, you know? So even, it's hard to feel sorry for you because you're so brutally, you treat us so bad. You come after us, try to hurt us. Your life is like, because you don't know what to do with your anger and despair and bitterness, you have to send it somewhere, and you send it to the guys that the media tells you to send it to, the guys who care about you. And that's why we end up not caring. We fucking distance ourselves from this because you're miserable to be around. And then when we see the girls, the spirited woman at 60 in her sundress with a flower on, I'm 57. 57-year-old woman, healthy looking woman, walks in the grocery store and she likes herself. She doesn't walk so straight, has a little wiggle to her step, feels like a woman, wants to be a woman, likes men, likes her wiggle. Until you can't like your wiggle anymore. Just like us, we all run out of gas sooner or later. But the sad part is you lose your whole wiggle for life. That's worse. You have it worse than us, and we're your victims. That's the sad part. So anyway, that's my message to feminists today, and I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you.